What changed nationally? Yeah, regulations for emergency exits, for not locking people in balconies, for exit doors, for panic hardware. How about the Our Lady of the Angels fire? Another Chicago one. What changed about schools everywhere?
Building.
The way they're built, the way staircases are, housekeeping, fire drills, school boxes, school inspections. I mean, all the things we do now led from incidents that happened. So the same thing happened with hazmat. There's accidents, industrial accidents that have happened worldwide that now OSHA and the Code of Federal Regulations has what? Teeth. In other words, if you have an accident, if somebody gets hurt, they're coming out, and what's going to happen? OSHA comes out, what's happening at your work site?
Shuts down.
They're shutting you down, and then it costs what? It costs money, right? They're not worried that you got hurt, they're worried that you stop making money, right? I always use the example, a couple summers ago, we had 53 tower cranes working in the downtown area at one time. 53 of them. How many emergency medical responses do you think we went to in that summer at those sites? 0, right? Why?
They're safe.
Yeah, because what do we do when Jimmy gets hurt on site? What do we do with him? We get him in an Uber and drive him to the hospital, right? And why? Because what happens when he gets hurt? When we get called and we respond with the technical rescue response, who else comes? OSHA, and they shut you down, right? Or they not only shut you down, but they're going to go, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, and they get that ticket book out there. Where I'm going with all this is this Code of Federal Regulations has teeth now. So this is what we call the Hazmat Bible. It's Hazwhopper. Why do they call it the Bible? Great reading if anybody's looking for something to knock themselves out at watch. But the beautiful thing about this book is it set the standards for everything we do in the hazmat world and even into the firefighting world. It talks about training. It talks about if I'm an emergency responder, what standards and what levels I have to be trained to. If I am a facility, it tells me I have to tell the people that work there, that live there, that respond there, what they're responding to. It set the standards for medical surveillance, which means if I work somewhere where I have the potential to be exposed to a hazardous material, I get an annual what? Checkup and physical. It means I get annual fit testing. Do we respond to chemical and do we respond to hazardous materials? Does our job give us an annual physical? Why? Yeah, what's the real answer? Because we're the state of Chicago and they do what? Whatever the hell they want. It's the wrong answer. You talk to any other fireman you know throughout the country, and I bet they're getting a paid annual physical either annually or every other year, right? We're just now stepping into the modern ages by getting a fit test every year. Chicago Lives Healthy getting a kind of a garbage physical, right? Just a quick blood test, but at least it's something. But this standard says that what? Your employer is going to do that. This standard says if I'm counting on you to respond as my emergency response team in a hazmat, I have to train you. I've got to equip you. I've got to pay for it if need be. 2 in 2 outcomes from this, right? Which is the basis of what? Of RIT for our department. So again, tons of things that we follow on our fire department all come out of this Code of Federal Regulations. So that was the big whopper as far as the 2 things that we talked about in week 1 that are important to us on our job. It sets the standards for NFPA 472, which is what our training competencies are, and basically the Hazmat Bible. Everything that we do on this job, fire-related or not, comes out of 29 CFR 1910-120. Who do you think gets an annual physical on our job? What team? Hazmat, right? Why? Why does Hazmat, all members, get a full physical paid for by the Chicago Fire Department every year? Okay, but Joe, you're 100% right. But why is that actual back ass words? Because who's the least likely to get exposed? Hazmat, right? Why? Because they came when what? When we rolled up and said, oh snap, there's a hazmat here. This is not the level bad stuff, right? Give me a level 1. Right? I mean, think about it. The ambulance, the police, the first engine, first truck pulls up and says, oh crap, I got a spill here, get me a level 1. So what direction does hazmat approach from? Uphill, upwind. When do they go in the hot zone? When they've stopped and done what? Done all their science, done all their research, and mind you, they absolutely should get a physical every year, right? But so should you and me. My point is that we give it to the guys because it says we're supposed to, but we actually give it to the guys that are probably the safest. Right? They're probably the quickest to protect themselves before they go in. It's almost inconceivable for a member of 511 or 512 to have an exposure. Because by rights, they're not going in the hot zone until what? Until they've figured out what it is and they've protected themselves. So we got the right idea as far as getting physicals. I just think we're giving it to the wrong person, right? It really should be everybody before one company in particular. Enough about that soapbox. So we talked about the NFPA standards. We zipped through the response components, right? Things that are important to understand. That isolate, identify, notify, mitigate, terminate. Real easy to follow if I follow the checklist. Like we talked about on the orals. No different, Jimmy, right, when you did SCF, CE, VOS, right? Whatever acronym you follow for your oral. Your level 1, level 2, level 3, those are universal terms. The only thing that's different is what? The amount of responses. Let's get into what makes us a technician. If I give you a product, you're responding to a spill. Let's just take it like you're the first engine, first truck. You pulled up to Acme Chemical and they met you out front and they said, I got methyl ethyl bad stuff in there. Joe, my engineer, is down. You guys got to go get it. All right, so right off Jump Street, you're doing what? You're asking for help, right? We're in our response component. We're going to notify. But what are the things you want to know before you or one of your brothers or sisters decides to run in there and get that person? What are questions that you want answered? What kind of chemical? We got to answer. So hey, let's go real generic. Let's go with a state of matter. What state of matter are we hoping it is? Solid, liquid, or gas? Yeah, how come? Easier to handle. What else? You know, stay there. So basically, unless it's a bomb, right? How's a solid going to hurt me? What do I have to do to it? Yeah, I got to eat it, sniff it, roll around in it, whatever it may be for it to bother me. So, right off Jump Street, with it being a solid, even a poisonous solid, is there a pretty good idea that I can put my bunker gear on, my SCBA, which is positive pressure, my hood, my gloves, you drop the line over here, and can I probably run over here and grab my lad and take him out of there? Yeah. Absolutely. So we love solids, right? If it's not a solid, what do we want it to be? A liquid, right? How come? A little better than what? Than a gas, right? So liquids by rights are hanging out in one spot. I can do some things to keep them where they are, right? What's important for me to know about a liquid, though? So, and let me ask it better. What do liquids want to eventually do? Turn into gases, right? So if I have a liquid, I'm happy that it's a liquid. I wish it was a solid. But I need to know something about that liquid. How quickly it's doing what? Turning into a gas. Does anybody remember what that chemical physical property was that told you how quickly a liquid wants to become a gas? And I don't expect you to, so don't sit there, don't feel like a dummy if this stuff isn't coming to you. If you haven't done this stuff a lot, it goes away. This is the absolute definition of a perishable skill, right? What we're talking about right now. So what chemical physical property, if anybody's got it, tells me how quickly something's going to turn into basically evaporate or turn into a gas? I'll give you a hint by writing it down.
Oh, vapor.
Vapor pressure. You got it. Yeah. Easier, well done. Right? So hey, vapor pressure. It's an oddball chemical physical property, but it's an important one for us. It is measured in millimeters of mercury. Okay, so 0 millimeters of mercury. What state of matter do you think that is? You had to guess. 3 states of matter. You got it. 0 millimeters of mercury is a solid. Which means if I look it up and it's a solid and it says 0 millimeters of mercury, that means when I go to lunch or go on vacation, go on furlough, come back, it's still going to be what? Sitting right there. 760 millimeters of mercury or above is a gas. What do you think everything in between is? You got it, liquid. So here's the question. The closer I get to 760 millimeters of mercury, in other words, the higher the number is, the more volatile that product is. In other words, the more gas it's providing. Quicker it's evaporating. So I can have a liquid, and I go, all right, it's a liquid, we're good as long as we stay back here. But then Vinny looks it up in the book right there and goes, hey, the vapor pressure is 500 millimeters of mercury. That means that's a liquid that's producing a fair amount of what? A vapor or gas, right? So here's a good reference. Water is between 18 and 25 millimeters of mercury, depending on what source you go on. So in other words, if I have a glass of water, a bucket of water, let's just say, and I pour it on the ground right here, and we go to lunch, we come back, most of that water is still going to be where? Sitting right here on this tile floor, right? Because it's not creating a ton of vapor. What could I do to make that vapor pressure increase? I could heat it up for sure, right? But at the same token, if I took a pot of water and put it on top of my stove but didn't turn the burner on, In the morning, all that water would still be there, right? But if I put that burner on just a little bit, when I came down in the morning, I'd have what? An empty pot, because that vapor pressure would increase through temperature, right? So water is somewhere around 18 to 25 millimeters of mercury. Acetone is about 180 millimeters of mercury. So if I take nail polish remover, which is basically acetone, right? And I open up a little container and I pour it on this table right here, you can probably smell it in the back of the room because it's loose, it's got a low odor threshold. But again, what's going to happen to that acetone in a few minutes? What's it going to do to this table and where's it going to be? In other words, I take a container of acetone, just a little one like nail polish remover, I spill it right in front of Tommy here and we all go to lunch. When I come back, is that acetone still there? No, it's done what? It's evaporated and gone in the air. So there's my little litmus test there. 180 millimeters of mercury, 150 in that ballpark. Basically anything over 100 millimeters of mercury tells me that liquid wants to do what? Create vapors, right? So that's all I'm looking at. One other thing to remember here, and again, I'm always a big fan of firefighter science as opposed to chemistry science. 760 millimeters of mercury is a gas, right? It's also equal to 1 atmosphere or 14.7 psi. All the same thing. So here's my liquid that's on the ground. It's pushing down, the atmosphere is pushing down at 14.7 psi. The vapor pressure is basically how hard that liquid is doing what? Pushing back against it, right? So anything that's higher, little pieces of vapor start to do what? Basically pop through and create, right? So here's my point. As a firefighter, when I look up a product and it says the vapor pressure is 1 atmosphere or 5 atmospheres or 10 atmospheres, does that matter to me? Whether it was 1, 5, or 10? No, it just tells me that it's greater than 1 and its state of matter is what? Is a gas, right? That's my point, is there's certain times we don't have to look too far into it, right? I don't care if it says 780 millimeters of mercury, 1,000 millimeters of mercury, 18 psi. If it's above these numbers, it's what state of matter? It's a gas, and that's really all I need to know at 2 in the morning in the side of the road, right? So that's the way I want you to look at these things. I want you to answer questions in a way that they're going to help you move on. So I look into that vapor pressure is the first thing I look up if it's a liquid to tell me, is this going to stay a liquid, is there going to be something else? That makes sense? All right, so it wasn't a solid, it wasn't a liquid, it was a gas. That was the next one that our option. So obviously we're hoping it's not a gas. Why don't we want it to be a gas? Yeah, hard to deal with, right? I can't control it. It's going to do what it's going to do, right? So let's just say we've determined our state of matter, solid, liquid, or gas, doesn't really matter. What else do you want to know about it as far as keeping yourself safe, or your guys, or that guy that's laying down on a product in it? What do you want to know about it? Is it explosive? Okay, is it flammable? How do I know? So in other words, you all got a NIOSH book in front of you. Open it up to any page. If you look at any page you're at, every one of them's got a little blue header on it. If you look right down a little bit on the right here, it says chemical physical properties. So what do you want to know that's going to tell me on those chemical physical properties if it's flammable? It'll have what? What tells you if something's flammable? Don't say it says flammable, right? One thing we're going to do all week is if I ask you a question about it, like I'll say, Kenny, is this flammable? And you go, yes. I go, how do you know? Don't say because it says flammable liquid here. I want you to say because it has what? What does something have to have to burn? You got it. What does our meter measure for? Our gas meter. What percentage of what? Your 4-gas meter
10%
of what? Of the LEL, right? It's got to have a lower explosive limit and an upper explosive limit, right? So whatever your product you're looking at, and some of you may be on ones that are non-flammable, does it have an LEL or a UEL? Yes, no? Yes. Okay, so that tells you what? It's flammable, right? Does that automatically mean we can't go in it? No, absolutely not, right? We go in potentially flammable atmospheres all the time, right? But it tells me whether or not it's got a flammable because it has a lower explosive limit and a what? Upper explosive limit, right? What kind of numbers are we hoping for here? So think about it. I want a low or a high LEL. Think about it. Why would I not want a low one? I want a really high one. Why? Why,
Yeah, a lot more.
I need a lot of it to burn, right? If it's a low LEL, it means I don't need much of it for it to burn. So I want a product that has a really high LEL. And how about that UEL? I want it to be really close to the LEL. In other words, what's the difference between these two called? Remember the difference between the LEL and the UEL is what? Flammable what? Range, right? Remember this? I know it's been a while, right, for a lot of us. So think about it. If I have here, and I've got my lower explosive limit right here, my upper explosive limit right here. Whatever product I'm talking about. If it's below my LEL, can it burn? No, why? It's what? Too lean, you got it. I have to have enough product for it to burn, right? If it's above my UEL, can it burn? It's too rich, you got it. What's everything in between here? You got it, boom. So ideally, if, let's just say the product we get is a flammable, I want that LEL to be what? Up here, I want there to have to be, for lack of a more technical term, a shit ton of it in the room for it to burn, right? And I want that range to be small, right? Look up acetylene. I think it's ACET. Somebody call a page out number when they get it.
5.
What's the lower explosive limit of acetylene? 2.5%. What's the upper?
100.
So basically, if I'm responding to an acetylene leak, what can I tell you about that room? It's flammable, right? It's going to go, right? This is the absolute nightmare of product that I want. So in other words, I want to know if it's flammable. Because, hey, I said it before, I'm a fireman, I'm not fireproof, right? I could possibly run in there, I could possibly go grab him if what? If we're not near the LEL, if we're ventilating, if we're dropping a line and going, but it's a piece of information that we have a right to know, right? It's important for us to understand. Everybody, is this coming back to everybody as far as our LEL and what that means? So for something to burn, it by rights has to have what? An LEL and a UEL and some type of ignition or flash point, right? So these are the things that I want to know about it right away. We get there, it's methyl ethyl bad stuff. It's my favorite chemical we use in there. I want to know as a fireman, is it flammable? Is it going to go boom if I run in there and grab it? Right? So I'm hoping it's not. I'm hoping I look there and there is no LEL and UEL. If there is, I'm hoping it's really high with a really small what?
Range.
Really small range. Perfect. Right? That makes sense? Okay, what else do I want to know about this product? I already know whether it's flammable. What's even maybe more important than that? Corrosive is a good one. What else? Yeah, is it poisonous, right? So think about it. If it's not going to burn me or poison me, what do I know right off Jump Street I can do with the lad that's down in there? I can go get him, right? So I am protected. So how do I tell if a product is poisonous? What bit of information out there, what chemical, physical property tells me if a product is poisonous? Look at your little chemical, physical property here. If you look in the upper right-hand corner of any product you have there, what's the number? Ideal age. What's that mean? Yep, I don't like hazmat, right? Immediately dangerous to life and health. So that's a NIOSH OSHA number that by right says that a worker can't be exposed to that number for more than 30 minutes. Can be exposed to it, not have irreparable damage. We treat it as a right now number. So if there's an ideal H up there, to me, that product is what? You said it. It's toxic, right? So in other words, I'm looking at my products. I want it to be a solid. It's not a solid. I want it to be a liquid. It's not a liquid. It's a gas. Okay, great. I look it up. It's flammable. Shit. Now I look it up and say, and it's got an ideal H. So it's poisonous and it's flammable. It's double bad for us, right? But these are the things that are important to us. So think about it. That ideal H number is, for the most part, measured in parts per million. So we've got 1 million parts in the room, right? We've got a million white jelly beans that fill this room top to bottom, front to back. The ideal H is going to tell us what? If that product is poisonous. So what kind of an ideal, let's just accept the fact that our product has an ideal H. What type of number am I hoping for there? A super big one, right? In other words, I want it to be 100,000 parts per million. What I'm really scared of is what? 3 parts. In other words, I got 1 million white jelly beans here. In that corner over there, there's 3 red ones in the back of the room, and it's enough to do what? Enough to kill me. So if a product has an ideal H, I'm hoping it has what? A really big one. Just because something has an ideal H, does that mean I can't go in? No, I am wearing positive pressure SCBA. I'm wearing a hood. I'm wearing bunker gear that's got thermal protective gear. It's got a moisture barrier. I've got gloves on. I've got boots. I've got a 45-minute bottle, right? I've got brothers and sisters waiting to come grab me if I have a problem, right? So in other words, hey, what's the point of